Sam the person, do you think he's obviously brilliant and smart and was able to get away with a lot of stuff, but was he a criminal from the onset? Did he just make some foolish mistakes? Mentally, where was he throughout all this?
Sam he's like the 14-year-old kid that stole the family car. He doesn't have a driver's license. He got 8 of his high school friends in the car, and then he found out that there's like $100,000 of cash, a bunch of drugs, and a gun in the car. And then they went joyriding for Saturday night.
Wow.
And the entire thing ends, horrifically with the car wrapped around a tree, half the people high.
But that analogy, I think it's very important to clarify that analogy.
And maybe he's an honor student in high school, but the point is he was not ready to drive the car. If he had 30 years of experience, if he was surrounded by 200 good attorneys and accountants and banking credit managers, then they would know what they don't know, and maybe they could have constructed a company that might have managed this amount of risk.
You're saying he's not smart enough to have conned people? You're saying he did that accidentally, or it was intentional, like knowing what he's doing?
I'm saying that he basically incompetently, foolishly, greedily, enthusiastically pursued what he thought was a good idea, but he didn't have the combination of the real world experience and the ethics and the legal understanding and the banking understanding to even know what he didn't know. So is it criminal? Absolutely, it's criminal. It's like if you roll over a bunch of people in a car and kill them all, it's illegal, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's not clear to me that Sam understands what he did wrong now. Like, for example, what did he do wrong? There's accounting fraud here. There's basically equity fraud by creating an air token. There's all sorts of credit fraud. There's investor fraud, misrepresenting the equity you sold the investors. There's self-dealing. He issued himself loans. There's front running. There's insider trading. There's wash trading. There's such a litany of ethical and legal lapses. But if you look at all the coverage in the crypto world, they miss the fundamental issue, which is it's illegal and unethical to issue your own air token. I mean, that the entire premise of the industry, an exchange that trades unregistered securities and an issuer of unregistered securities, that fundamentally is unethical everywhere in the world, illegal nearly everywhere in the world.
I have two questions.
And yet they built the business on that premise. On top of that premise, then he inflated the accounting values, built backdoors into the exchange.
There's just nonstop illegal stuff going on. What were you going to say, Pat?
Yeah, here's what I was going to say. So two things. One, last night I'm watching a documentary. And let me just, before I forget what this documentary was, I'm watching this documentary last night. It's the story of The Good Nurse. The movie and the documentary came up at the same time. It's a dark documentary. I don't recommend it. It's called Capturing the Killer Nurse. I don't know if you've seen this documentary or not. It just came out. So it's a story about a guy named Charlie Cullen or something like that, where he's working out of this. Just type in the Capturing the Killer Nurse. And this guy, intentionally gives this drug to his patients that they don't track at all in the ICU. And over a 16-year span in this hospital in Jersey, he kills an estimated 400 people with this shot that he gives. And if you look up what the drug is Joxin. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's Dogxin, something like that. Okay.
Rob, hit images over there.
So he gives this drug and he kills him. And eventually one of his coworkers like, why are all his patients dying? Why are so many of his patients dying? And so they eventually gets caught. One of his coworkers mics herself because she's dealing with the FBI and goes and sits down with him and talking. And she says, why are you doing this? And then all of a sudden the mic cuts off. And then there's a live interview of him. And he says, well, and he starts crying. He says, I'm just doing this because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just doing it because I want to put these people out of their misery. And, I don't want them to experience this pain. You know, it's kind of like Sam Bankman-Fried is like, hey, today's Wall Street Journal, FTX founder Bankman-Fried said he couldn't explain what happened to the billions of dollars that customers of his failed cryptocurrency exchange sent to bank accounts of his trading firm, Alameda. What do you mean what happened? He doesn't know what happened. So to me, this guy knew what he was doing. This guy behind
he
this
knew
capturing.
he was killing people.
So that he knows he's killing people. And this guy knew what he was doing. So the part that this leads me to is two different things. One, let's say Bitcoin goes to 100. Let's say Bitcoin doesn't drop the way it did. Let's say Bitcoin goes to 100. Let's say Ethereum goes to 6K. I'm just making numbers up right now. Saying Ethereum goes to 6K, Bitcoin goes to 100,000. Does anything happen to him if Bitcoin goes to 100K and Ethereum goes to 6,000? Does he
would he
get
have
caught
got away
yet?
with it?
Yes.
He had created an extremely fragile situation where he had one account, Alameda, that had a $10 billion plus margin position backed by air. And if that air token, FTT or Serum, if they had been attacked by anybody, the entire thing goes up like a house of cards. So I think if you look at all the blow-ups, right, Celsius, BlockFi, Do Kwon, Luna, Terra, Three Arrows, Genesis, and FTX, all of them were going to blow up at some point because, like Luna, Terra, it was $20 billion worth of a stablecoin backed by $2 billion of real assets, and a $50 billion Luna thing that had $50 million a day of real liquidity. So they were all running on 100x rehypothecated leverage, and they were going to blow up. It's just a question of when they're going to blow up.
So with all the craziness taking place, I believe future looks bright. If you believe future looks bright, get your latest Future Looks Bright hat of Valuetainment. It says Future Looks Bright here, Future Looks Bright here. We got them in white, we got them in black, we got them in red. Our black on black sold out. These are about to sell out. If you haven't ordered one yet, we had a person in Michigan, bought one, then he bought three. Then when those three people weren't in the office, they had to order 58 of them because people wanted the Future Looks Bright hat, especially during times like this, because ain't nobody saying Future Looks Bright. To order your Future Looks Bright hat, click over here. And to watch the entire podcast, click here. Take care, everybody.